Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this is how to use Swanna. Now, Swanna's stats, not great at all. This is another one of those Pokemon where its highest stat doesn't even break 100, and it's somewhere around the 90s. Now, it is speed, so that means we're not going to be able to outspeed much of anything. All the 100 base speed Pokemon outspeed us, and that's kind of bad. On that, 60s on the defenses, 75 on the hit points. Safe to say this Pokemon isn't really competitive. That when we have like a 98, 87, like so 98 speed, 87 offense attacker, it has no sweeping capabilities and no takiness to make it defensive whatsoever. So that's just going to be one of the problems when we're dealing with Swanna to look at to begin with. Looking at its typing, well, it's the typing Lugia should have. Wait a second. My god. Well, anyway, it's still a really good typing, and more Pokemon need to have this typing. I mean, Rock, 2 times weakness, Electric, 4 times weakness. That's it. You just have 2 weaknesses, so it's kind of like Ferrothorn in a way, that, you know, you only have 1 2x and 1 4x, and that's not really that bad. Now, Electric type attacks are going to be really terrible to deal with, but I mean, just bring a Ground type Pokemon. Switch into that Ground type, and then you get to resist really well, so that works out. Immunity to Ground, and then a lot of resistances. Fighting, Bug, Steel, Fire, and Water. It's really solid overall, so I mean, good typing. Wish the stats were better, and the Pokemon does have a lot of potential. So I'm going to look at Bulbapedia really quick, and it's the curious case of Defog. So few Pokemon actually get Defog naturally, because it was an HM in the 4th generation, but then was discontinued, and then 6th generation makes it to where you have very little access to it, because it's not accessible in 6th generation by HM or even TM, and then not a lot of Pokemon get it. So in the 5th generation, you only got 3 Pokemon that naturally learned it, or 3 evolution lines, and then there are some Pokemon that you can breed for it, but that's it. Very few Pokemon actually get Defog now that can use it legally in the 6th generation, so it is the curious case of Defog, and it's still a really good move. Then what Defog does is, if we go and hop over into Pokemon Showdown, it removes hazards from the field and it lowers evasion. So it slows down evasion boosting, and it's a really good thing to remove hazards because it can't get walled out by ghost type Pokemon like if you're using Rapid Spin. So people have been picking up Defog as a way of just clearing stealth rocks and entry hazards and anything, but it does remove all of them. So only bring Defog if you're not going to be using hazards yourself, and Swanna's a Pokemon that can do that for you. So mid-game is where I see Swanna being used. You don't want to use this as a lead, but you can use it as a Pokemon like, okay, rocks are starting to get annoying, and then you just kind of use the Defog right there, but that's already going to be a problem. You're a flying type Pokemon, so you switch into rocks, and then you're going to take damage. So you're losing a quarter of your health for free, and then you have to hope you survive to get the Defog off. But if you are slower, you can use the Tailwind. So the idea behind this is you set up Tailwind, you defog, you get knocked out, and now you have a couple of turns of Tailwind for the rest of your team. If by some miracle you survive, then you can throw out the Scald, hope for the burn, and if they're not damaging you for some reason, you can go for the Roost. So with the spread on this, I was thinking Bold Nature, 100 EVs in the defense, 156 in the special defense, rest on the hit points. Now we will want to take off a point, that way we don't have even hit points, so we don't get that break from the Stealth Rocks. The idea is we're going to be using this for Stealth Rocks. Now this does work for level 50 as well, keeping that on an odd number, so that's kind of all that there really is to it when we're breaking this down. Keen Eye means that we get to hit through Pokemon that are boosting evasion with that Scald, so might be able to burn a Minimizer. Big Pex doesn't really matter. Like, these are good abilities. Like, I want to see Big Pex on a tanky Pokemon. Doesn't have to worry about getting its defense stage lower, and it might be able to make something happen, but Keen Eye in this situation going to work out really well. If we want to use Hydration, I was thinking double battles. So if you have a Rain Setter, Swanna actually works out as a pretty solid support. Use the Tailwind, so you boost your speed, then you can use Feather Dance. Swanna also one of the Pokemon that gets Feather Dance. Very few Pokemon get access to this move, and it's really good. Like, Swanna's kit has a lot of potential, but the base stats hold it back so hard. It's actually really sad to see. Maybe Mega Swanna. Like, if they do Mega Swanna really right, give it an amazing ability, it could actually be either a huge utility Pokemon or maybe an outright damage Pokemon in its own regard. So it's something to keep an eye on if it gets really nice stats, but it would still need a buff. Like, it would need plus 10 in both defenses and maybe plus 10 in an offense or something, then get the Mega for the plus 100. Still kind of tricky, maybe a 3rd stage evolution. I don't know, maybe it could evolve into Lugia or something like that. But this is what we're dealing with right now. So Tailwind going to give you speed, Feather Dance going to lower your opponent's attack, which is really nice under that speed priority in Rain. And then you can use Surf. Surf is going to get stab plus boosted damage, so if you have an allied Pokemon with Water Absorb, that can make really good use of that. So either a Rain Setter that's Prankster like Klefki, or just a Water Absorb Pokemon that's setting Rain, or if it uses Protect, you can still damage the opponents pretty well. And then Hurricane. Hurricane can't miss in Rain, so you can become a Confusion kind of Pokemon as well. That 30% chance to confuse while doing a good amount of damage could be pretty nice. They get confused, they hit themselves, Feather Dance. So you have mid-support damagey things that work out pretty well, but still could be very difficult to use you, so you will need that Focus Sash. First turn, hopefully you get hit once, you set up the Tailwind, and then you find an opportunity to use some damage. And if they don't focus you down, you might be able to do a couple other things. So Swanna does have good potential, as long as the Pokemon next to it is threatening enough and making a lot of use off of that rain. Other than that, you can run a female, and then you can use Attract, because that's really all that's left. I wouldn't get rid of Hurricane. Instead of Feather Dance, we can carry the Attract, and that's kind of all there is to Swanna in this regard. And then we just have offensive Swanna. So you can use Life Orb, you set up Tailwind for yourself, and then you go for as much of a sweep as possible. Ice Beam, get access to Ice Beam, and then you have Scald and Hurricane Stab. Keen Eye, just in case they're trying to like do evasion shenanigans or something. It just works out that way, and then Hurricane. So hopefully we can get a good amount of damage. You know, Hurricane can find some 2-hit KOs. Scald gets the burn, we might be in a decent situation. Then we have Ice Beam for the coverage. So I mean, the coverage, the damage of this Pokemon looks pretty solid, but we just don't have the stats to back it out. Maxing up the hit points means we might be a 2-hit KO Pokemon even after the Life Orb, so Tailwind, take a hit, and then try to go for as much damage as possible, and we might find some success. If they're going for setup, you might be able to use Swanna as a lead in this regard, because, okay, they get Stealth Rocks, you use Tailwind, Ice Beam, Scald, Hurricane, you get whatever damage you need, and that's fine. Or if you use it in the mid-game, you know, you get 1 damage, you might find a KO, you might find a little bit extra, and you might have a turn of Tailwind left when Swanna goes down. So Swanna gets knocked out, and then one of your Pokemon can come in and really outspeed and clean up the game from there. So that's kind of the backup with this Tailwind, but overall, it's okay, but it could be better. If you don't want to run Tailwind, you can run Roost, but with this, we're just going to have to swap it out and take away some points into the hit points, and then max out the speed with a Timid Nature. So we're going to find more natural outspeeds. We might be able to like recover Shenanigan into a KO at some point, but we are doing less damage overall, so that's going to be Swanna. It is a Defog user that's legal in the 6th generation, brings a good amount of utility and singles and doubles, but the stats fall just short, that if it had a little bit more love and care, could actually be a threatening Pokemon. So if you guys enjoyed the video, that's how you use Swanna. I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.